On the morning of the 13th of August 2022, I was preparing to stream the then hours-old launch of Marvel's Spider-Man on PC. I played through the opening act of the game to get to the open world parts where I could zerp around the city some and fine-tune my graphics settings for a nice tight 60fps lock and keep all my settings as maxed out as I can, and of course to make sure the ray tracing was at absolute maximum settings, because why own a 3080 Ti if you're not going to do that anytime you can? So I was zerping around the city, stopping for a few screenshots here and there to tease the stream with on Twitter, and before long I landed in Greenwich Village. And as soon as I spotted one of them, I remembered that there were pride flags scattered all around that area. Would you like to know why that area of New York specifically has pride flags all around it? And by the way, this goes for the real New York City as well as the one in the game. Well, Greenwich Village is where the original Stonewall Inn was. And if you have no idea what the Stonewall Inn is, or why it plays a major part of cultural history, or what it has to do with rainbow flags, then I'm sorry, but your ignorance is deeper than I have time for in this video. You'll have to seek answers out on that one on your own time. Suffice to say, it's culturally very important, and there's a reason why all the rainbow flags are in this part of town specifically. So we have pride flags in a game with a representation of a real-world location reflecting the pride flags that exist in that real-world location. Fair enough. Perfectly logical, right? Oh, and before we move on, there is a secret photo spot here too for those of you chasing the achievements, the big-ass pride flag painted on one of the building's sides. So for your completionists, heads up, keep an eye out for that one. Anyway, having landed myself atop a pride flag and slapping a screeny, because why wouldn't you, I posted it up to Twitter, mocking the inevitable reaction I knew was coming from silly little homophobes and right-wing dingleberries when they spotted it in-game, because you know it was going to trigger them. And you know this because the exact same thing already happened when the game first launched on PS4. And there's nearly a 4-year-old Reddit post about it right here, just to show that to you. And lo and behold, I was of course right. It doesn't take much to predict the handful of brain cells that these people share. A bunch of red state snowflakes freaked all the way out about it because a colourful flag hurt their feelings. Because they really, really hate being reminded that gay people exist. So, 2 days later, I'm looking at what the modding community has managed in the first 48 hours of the game's release. Nothing too sort of dramatic or exciting. A few quick suit mods, a couple of which I really like. A couple of lazy shader adjustments, because you always get those. And then there was this, the so-called anti-Newtonian New York mod. It replaced all the pride flags in the game with the American national flag, of which, by the way, being set in New York, there was already plenty scattered throughout the entire rest of the map. There is no shortage of the, what do they call it, Old Glory? So, some absolute pindicked glass fragile little baby man who, by the way, chose Mike Hawk as his username, too afraid to go by his real name, so he chose Mike Hawk. Mike Hawk? Get it? Get it, Mike Hawk? So clearly obsessed with cocks, because he wanted a name that reminded you of his cock. But poor old Mike was so terrified right down to his bones and infuriated by the reminder that, gasp, gay people exist and have a place in history, especially the history of New York's Greenwich Village area, that he spent time and effort to manually modify a video game to erase that painful reminder that he's trapped in a closet of self-hating homophobia. Probably because, well, it's a cliche, but it's real. I mean, just yesterday I saw yet another news story about a anti-gay preacher who was caught well, let's just say exploring extremely close friendships with some of his underage parishioners. Homophobia is always deflection. If you're curious about the Newtonian thing, it's a dog whistle, a coded way for homophobes to be homophobic openly without using the normal homophobic language that would normally get picked up by things like automatic filters on websites with policies against hate speech, for instance. It has to do with Isaac Newton's experiments with prisms and splitting sunlight into the rainbow. So anti-Newtonian is code for anti-rainbow, anti-pride, basic bitch homophobia to you and me. They're just scared to say it out loud because they know that people won't put up with it. They're aware of just how out of touch they are and out of step with the rest of the world. Now, to the credit of the vast majority of Nexus users, Nexus being the site where the mod was hosted, Mike Hawk was getting absolutely bum-pumped in the comments. Last I saw, there was no less than 17 pages of comments mocking him for his crybaby fragility in feeling the need to make this mod in the first place, let alone share it with Joe Public. Every one of us saw it for the transparently flimsy bigotry and homophobia it was. Everyone saw exactly what he was trying to do. He was trying to piss people off because he knew it would. That's why he posted it publicly. And the best part is, no one, not one of us who took the bat to his knees was taking that bait unironically. We knew exactly what it was trying to do, and we weren't falling for it. I wish I'd made screenshots because some of it was so freaking funny. But sadly, I didn't, and now it's gone, because the mod was deleted and Mike Hawk himself got banned from the entire site. And apparently, with him, a whole bunch of his sock puppet accounts also got banned at the same time, at least a few of which he was using to pretend to be other people to come to his own defense in the comments, which on its own is hilariously sad. If you're so out of touch you have to pretend to be someone else using fake accounts to make people think that other people support you, oh my god, how sad is that? Imagine making a fake account to pat yourself on the back for homophobia. It's pathetic. Oh, and by the way, just using multiple accounts on Nexus is also a violation of terms of use. Never mind the homophobic hate speech bullshit. Just having multiple accounts, that's a violation of their terms of service. So now we come to the part where people rage about censorship, outrageous censorship. Deleting a mod because you don't agree with its political messaging sounds like censorship, right? Well, no. And for those of you who believe that deleting this mod was censorship, here's the thing with that. Here's why you're wrong. The mod itself was the censorship, you wacky little pillocks. The mod was the thing censoring the author's intent. Because the intent was to faithfully represent a super gay part of New York, and the mod was removing content that the authors put there, and the modder thought was politically objectionable, so they censored it by hiding it under a jingoistic thrust of performative patriotism. That is the censorship here, at least in the broader vernacular, the way the word is used these days by most people. So what the Nexus mods did when they deleted this mod was remove censorship, not enact or enforce it. Nexus was being anti-censorship. So, to be even more clear about this, by the way, even if it was pure and clear-cut censorship by anybody's definition, Nexus mods can still remove any damn thing they like, just like any other website that hosts user-generated content. They all have policies that let them take down whatever the bloody hell they like. It's their site, and if they have a policy against content that is specifically intended to be disrespectful or inflammatory on issues like this, well, too bad. Let me read you the specific rules of use Nexus has for this kind of stuff. Content that may be generally construed as provocative, divisive, objectionable, discriminatory, or abusive towards any real-world individual or group may be subject to moderation. This includes, but is not limited to, content involving politics, race, religion, gender identity, sexuality, or social class. So, it is absolutely, unquestionably their call. Just like if you came to my home and acted like a twat and was like, ridiculously racist or homophobic or whatever, and I told you to get the frack out and slammed the door behind you and even locked it behind you, that's not me censoring you. That's me telling you that your bullshittery is unacceptable in my home, in my space. That's not censorship. That's not how the word works. It's exactly the same as a bouncer kicking a troublemaker out of a bar. So, some dude trying to pick a fight. He gets kicked out and he gets told not to come back. That's not censorship. Trying to pick a fight with other people in a bar is not protected freedom of speech. That's you being told jackassery won't be tolerated here. If you want a word that fits better than censorship and still allows you to wildly oversimplify the situation by using a single word, call it gatekeeping. Well, just 2 words, hyphenated probably. It's gatekeeping at best, not censorship. In simpler terms, you can make your mods about socio-political themes, sure, no worries, but if your intent is to clearly demean, disrespect, or provoke people on the basis of personal identity, race, sexuality, gender, and all that kind of stuff, well, don't pretend to be shocked when your deliberately provocative content provokes a reaction that includes recognizing you broke the rules of the website and have your account restricted or deleted. That's what you were trying to do. You were trying to provoke a reaction. You got one. Congratulations. Moreover, if they, Nexus, had left this mod on their site after receiving reports about it, and it being obviously against their standard policies, it would spread the message that Nexus is okay with homophobes, which would only encourage more of this stuff, which would only encourage more issues and more infighting and more petty trolling and all that kind of crap. And clearly Nexus is not okay with that, so they nuked it pretty quick. The intention of the mod was obviously to provoke a reaction, and Mike got one. Mike's only problem is he was trying to make people freak out and get mad at him, and what he got was people mocking him and the site banning him. Bit of a miscalculation, Mike. It's also a little bit sad because this is a 2-year-old's psychological mentality we're talking about here. People like this have the brain of a 2-year-old child, really, when it comes to this sort of stuff. You know how they call it the terrible twos? Any kid about that age? And how kids around that age will deliberately misbehave just to test boundaries and get attention? It's, a perfectly normal part of growing up. You have to find where the boundaries are. You're trying to assert yourself as a individual little person. You have your own identity. You have your own personality now. And you're testing the boundaries. Just how far can you push things before you go too far? That's quite normal in a 2-year-old. In people who really should have outgrown that long ago, people who should have developed a sense of empathy, a sense of self-awareness. But no, they chose to be sad little baby brains, and they excused themselves from responsibility by calling it just trolling and calling other people snowflakes for getting upset at someone deliberately trying to upset them, which is, come on, really? Which, again, psychologically speaking, is also an extremely juvenile mindset to have. Blaming other people getting upset about shit you do and saying it's their fault that they got upset and refusing to acknowledge your own responsibility. It's genuinely really, really sad to see people like that so emotionally stunted. It's hard to imagine them ever being genuinely, truly happy or having any kind of healthy interpersonal relationships. And I find that sad for them. I have pity for them. And the trouble is, some of the stuff is so ridiculous, so over the top, so unbelievably stupid. I often lose the ability to tell what is parody and what is just earnest, ridiculous, stupid, ignorant bigotry anymore. I can't tell if this is someone being ironic, because it is so absurd, so clownish to suggest that not being allowed to remove a pride flag in a video game is literally like being in 1933 Nazi Germany. I, honest to God, can't tell if this is an earnest statement or absolute parody of just how ridiculous these people are, because suggesting that just shows an immense level of ignorance about every issue surrounding this. But it's also become a standard go-to tool for hateful shitlords of all varieties. They go out of their way to be as provocative and as obnoxiously over the top as they can be in their provocations. And then when they get the angry reaction they're obviously after, they claim the other side are snowflakes, so easily offended. I'm just asking questions. Those little snowflakes are rage-filled, angry mobs that refuse to have a civil discussion. I'm just trying to have a civil discussion. Look at them. They're so mad. It's so pathetically transparent. We all see through you. It's sad, and it's juvenile, and it's pitiable. But, of course, anytime someone tries shit like this online, there's going to be a counter-reaction, and like I said, probably like 95% of the reactions to that non-Newtonian mod in the comment section, before it was unceremoniously deleted, were in fact calling this silly little man out on his sad and out-of-touch homophobia. But Nexus is, of course, not just a site where users download mods. It's a site where people with the skills to mod also hang out there, of course, because, well, that's where they upload their mods. And so, inevitably, in come mods like the Pretoria mod, which hilariously replaces all American national flags with the flag of the mighty and sovereign nation of Pretoria. A reference from Family Guy Season 2, Episode 18, E Peterbus Unum. And a fun gay joke also ties into this reference because in that episode, Peter Griffin's original name for his nation was Peterland, but he had to go with Pretoria because Peterland was the name of a gay bar down by the airport. Because Peter is a soft slang word for dicks. But that linked joke does also mean that this mod works on a few levels, which amuses me no end. There is now also another mod that changes all of the flags in the game to pride flags. So it's not just Greenwich Village anymore, it's all of the places on the map that have pride flags all around now. Although, I suppose, to use my own logic, bent sideways a little bit, I suppose there's a softly disingenuous argument to be made that erasing all the national flags counts as censorship. And I'm sure someone will try that angle to argue against stuff like this, because homophobes like few things more than the mental gymnastics that allows them to paint their victims as aggressors. Look at how unreasonable they're being. Hypocrites. Grr. But then let's really think about it. Let's unpack this. Let's think about the intent here, because that's what matters. The intent matters. With the anti-Newtonian mod, the intent was hostility. It was meant to erase recognition of a minority group, a victimized group. While this mod's intent isn't hostility against a minority, it is in fact a slap back against someone else's attempt to erase and deny them. So, does it count as censorship or hypocrisy? No, I don't think so. It's also already been proving to be an effective honeypot baiting out more hateful little twerps into exposing themselves in the comments and, oh no, getting banned for violating the site's terms of use about hateful bullshit. Hey Mike, is this you? Is this another one of your sock puppet accounts? There is yet another mod that changes all these standard pride flags into a more recently introduced variation called the Progress Pride flag, which adds a chevron along the hoist to specifically represent some other marginalized folks within the larger queer community, like people of color and trans people. The only reason I don't have that installed to show you right now is I needed to be able to show the original flags for the main purpose of this video. But just so you know, it's there if you want it. There's also the suit I'm wearing in this footage, which is called the Amazingly Valid Spider-Man. Just for the name alone, I love it. What a perfect name for this. And of course, its colors are that of the transgender flag, and those folks are under all kinds of vile attacks right now, so, you know, I think that sucks pretty hard to say the least, and I'm happy this mod exists. Now, a Spider-Man suit with the colors of my own tiny little corner of the pride flag might be a bit complicated. I don't know how that'll work. Maybe I'll try to figure out how modding works and do it myself. I don't know. I think that particular mix of colors might be a bit complicated to implement. Like me, I guess. I'm complicated too. So, you know, for now, I'm just good with popping the pink and blue and white as an ally for my trans peeps. While we're at it, hello, of course, to the rest of the rainbow. Let's all share a little giggle at Mike Hawk and all his fake sock puppet accounts' expense. Indulge in a bit of schadenfreude for a lonely little bigot being shown just how out of touch and misguided he really is in this world. Now, people like him aren't worth much sympathy. They made their choices, but pity? Pity, I've got lots of that for them. And frankly, arguing with them will never change their viewpoint. You know, just screaming back at them, saying, no, don't be a dickhead, is never going to be helpful in expanding their perspective. With that tactic, they'll only ever get their back up and double down and get worse. So pity or indifference are the easiest paths when dealing with people like this. Sometimes, just sometimes, you can find a way to have a real conversation with them. And if you're really lucky, they'll start thinking a little more critically about where and why they hate and feel like they do. But usually it's pretty hard to reach these people, especially if they already think that anyone who holds the pride flag aloft is a degenerate, to use their own words. It's hard to change their mind on that when you just scream back at them. Speaking of degenerates, there's this suit for you true degenerates out there, because I very nearly bought a hoodie with this I forget the word for it. I'll put it up on screen. I forget the word for it. This starts with an A. I don't know. I very nearly bought a hoodie with this print all over it once. I would never be able to wear it in public except maybe at a convention or something. But it makes me laugh, outrageously laugh, and I don't know why exactly, because, you know, it's not, you know, I'm not into that, but it just, I don't know what it is. It's hilarious to me. It absolutely creeps me out, but it's hilarious at the same time. So, you know, that's the thing. But for now, people, swing with pride, my friends. Swing with pride. Thanks for watching. I am Bunty, and thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there, who I guarantee you none of them are homophobes, because, well, I can't imagine a homophobe giving me money. I dare you to, homophobes, give me money. I dare you to. What are you going to do now? I've called your bluff. That's not going to work. Thanks for watching. I'm Blondie. I'll catch you next time.